Good day, everyone. I'm happy to be here once again. The solution to the previous question will be provided today. So, our previous practice question was based on capital and revenue expenditure. So, the solution to that question on capital and revenue expenditure will be provided here. So, let's first go through the question before we provide solution to it. So the question is, Mr. Femi, a farmer, bought a tractor and two cutlasses for 450,000 naira, 450,000 naira, and 850 naira, that is 850 naira respectively. He incurred the following expenses for the year ended 31st December 2012. Wages 69,000 naira, yam tuber 11,000 naira, maize 2,000 naira. He received 4,900 naira from customers. The tractor was later sold for 250,000 naira. Compute the following. First one, capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, revenue receipts, capital receipt. So we want to provide solution to the question. So before we proceed, what is capital expenditure? We explained the meaning of capital expenditure in our previous class. So let's quickly summarize this capital expenditure before we compute capital expenditure here. So we say capital expenditure. Capital expenditure, this is an expenditure incurred during the course of a business to acquire fixed assets. We can also say capital expenditure is an expenditure incurred on an existing fixed assets in order to add value to that fixed assets or to make that fixed assets more productive. The expenditure is incurred on the fixed asset to make the fixed asset more productive. Okay, so let's continue. Please, if you have not attended the last classes on capital expenditure, kindly go and attend the class so that you'll be able to get more facts, you'll be able to understand the topic very well. We are only trying to summarize here, then we solve the question. So let's solve that question first. Capital expenditure. We want to provide solution to that. I want to compute capital expenditure. Okay, so capital expenditure. So here is the solution, capital expenditure. So we can see from the question that the tractor was bought for 450,000 naira. So that's the cost of the tractor, 450,000 naira. Then cutlasses. The two cutlasses cost 850 naira. That's the cost of the two cutlasses, 850 naira. If you check the question very well, the cost of the two cutlasses is 850 naira. Some people make mistakes. They thought each cutlass cost 850. No. The summation, that is the total cost of the two cutlasses, is 850 naira. So we now add these two together now to get our capital expenditure. So 450,000 naira plus 850 naira, that is 450,000 naira plus 850 naira. So the total is 450, 850. That is 450,000 naira. That is 450,850 naira. So our capital expenditure is 450,850 naira. So that's our capital expenditure. So that's how to calculate the capital expenditure here. So we can then move to the next uh, question. Let's move to the next question. We want to compute revenue expenditure. So how do we compute the revenue expenditure? And before we compute this revenue expenditure, let's summarize the meaning of this revenue expenditure. Although we explained the meaning of revenue expenditure in our previous classes, please, if you have not attended the previous classes, kindly go and attend those classes so that you'll be able to get more knowledge about this revenue expenditure. So we can see revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure is an expenditure incurred during the normal activity of a business, or a routine expenditure incurred during the course of a business. It's also a day-to-day or expenditure incurred in a business. It's totally different from capital expenditure. So let's move on now to the computation of revenue expenditure. So revenue expenditure, how do we compute the revenue expenditure? So from the question, you can see that Mr. Femi incurred 69,000 naira on wages. So wages is an example of revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure, as we explained earlier in our previous classes, we said revenue expenditure consists of all those expenses that we found in the profit and loss account. So wages is one of them. So we can see revenue expenditure here now. Wages 69,000 naira. Yam tuber, Mr. Femi purchased yam tuber. Yam tuber 11,000 naira. 11,000 naira. Then maize, he purchased maize 2,000 naira. So the addition of all this expenditure is 82,000 naira, which is our revenue expenditure. Our revenue expenditure here is 82,000 naira. So let's look at it very well. You can see all these items. If Mr. Femi wants to prepare his trading profit and loss account, all these items will be included. Wages will be included in the profit and loss. Then let's say this yam tuber may be included in the in trading accounts. Maize also. So this is how to go about it. Revenue expenditure is 82,000 naira. So let's go to the next question. The next question. So we've computed capital expenditure, we've computed revenue expenditure. So we want to compute revenue receipts. So before we compute this revenue receipt, what is the meaning of this revenue receipt? Although it was explained in our previous classes, so let's quickly summarize the meaning of this revenue receipt. So revenue receipts are the revenues and income received during the ordinary course of a business. That is, revenue and income received from the day-to-day business, or from the ordinary activity of a business. An example, okay, let's list some example of revenue receipt. Example of revenue receipt, you can say discount received, you can say commission received, you can say rent income, you can say sales of goods and services. So all these are revenue receipt. So how do we compute it? Let's quickly look at how we compute revenue receipts. Revenue receipts. So revenue receipt here is amount received from customer is revenue receipt. The amount received from customer is Mr. Femi revenue receipt. So the revenue receipt is 4,900 naira. 4,900 naira. That was the amount received from the from Mr. Femi's customer. 4,900 naira. So let's look at the other one. So we want to look at the last question here. Compute capital receipts. Although the capital receipt was not part of the previous practice question, we just need to include it here so that we gain more knowledge about it. So how do we calculate capital receipt? And before we start to calculate capital receipt, what is the meaning of capital receipt? let's quickly summarize the meaning of capital receipt here. You can say capital receipt consists of the amount of money received from the sales of fixed assets, amount of money received from the issue of shares, amount of money received from debentures, amount of money received from loans. So loans, if you get loans, or classify loans as capital receipts also. So those are our capital receipts. So let's go back to the question now. So if you check the question, let's check the question very well. Yeah. So let's go to the okay. He received 4,900 naira from customers. Then the tractor was later sold for 250,000 naira. The tractor was sold for 250,000 naira. So this 250,000 naira is a capital receipt because it's the amount of money received from the sales of fixed assets. So any other capital receipt, so we cannot see any other capital receipt here except that 250,000 naira. So let's come and solve the question here. So our capital receipt here now, the amount, let's look at it. The capital receipt, the amount at which the tractor was sold is capital receipt. That is, the capital receipt of Mr. Femi is the amount at which the tractor was sold. So the capital receipt is 250,000 naira. That is the capital receipt. 250,000 naira is the capital receipt. So that is the solution to the question. So let's come back. Let's look at the solution again. Since we have the question, so this is the solution. Capital expenditure. This is how to calculate it. Then revenue expenditure. This is how to calculate the revenue expenditure. Then revenue receipts. This is how to calculate revenue receipts. And capital receipts. This is how to calculate capital receipts. So let's look at the solution again from the beginning. Compute the following. So thank you very much. So we'll meet next class.